True to its innovative spirit, the Chicago area is home to several cutting-edge industries. Like the emerging field of quantum technology, Fermilab is America's premier particle physics research facility located in the city's western suburbs. Less than 10 miles away is Argonne National Laboratory, connected by a fiber-optic cable to the University of Chicago. Scientists there are trying to apply atomic principles to improve communications and computing.
People are realizing you can use the quantum properties of nature to build a new paradigm for information processing. This can outperform classical computing by orders of magnitude.
4 of the 10 quantum labs in the United States are located in Illinois, which receives roughly $4 of every $10 the federal government invests in the technology. Illinois also produces far more nuclear power than anywhere else in America. 75% of Chicago's electricity needs are now met by the state's 11 reactors, which are cooled by the ample fresh water from its vast lake and numerous rivers. Chicago is where the dawn of the nuclear age happened, as America's Manhattan Project raced the Germans during World War II.
The role of the University of Chicago was to produce a self-sustaining chain reaction in a nuclear reactor.
It did just that on December 2nd, 1942, when Enrico Fermi's team achieved the first self-sustaining nuclear chain reaction in a facility hidden underground on campus. Today, a different source of clean energy is proliferating on the edges of Chicago: wind. During my drive south, I encountered enormous turbines towering over cornfields that stretched as far as the eye could see in every direction for miles along the highway. With so many major industries present in the Chicago area, its economy is now one of the world's most diversified. It's also one of the planet's most racially diverse cities, with a population roughly equal parts white, black, and Latino. Many other ethnic communities number in the thousands too. But it wasn't always this colorful. Waves of European immigrants during the 1800s made the city's population 98.1% white in 1900. But over the next 70 years, in a period known as the Great Migration, 6 million African Americans left the South to settle in Chicago and other cities in the North.
My family, we moved to Chicago in August of 1919. They came for 3 principal reasons: to be able to fight back if they were attacked, vote, and to have a better education for their children.
By the 1990s, Chicago's South Side and its adjoining suburbs had become the largest African American majority region in the country, fostering all sorts of talent, from academics, activists, and rappers, to global icons like Michael Jordan, arguably the most successful American pro athlete, Oprah Winfrey, the richest African American of the 20th century, and the Obamas. Interestingly, none of them live in Chicago full-time anymore. Maybe that's because none except the First Lady are originally from the city, and perhaps never grew to love its frigid winters. My friend Mark, who moved here a few years ago, put Chicago's notorious weather in perspective.
That's the thing about Chicago. Winters are brutal. People hibernate. And it's really hard because they're in your house, in your cocoon. But the spring and the summer, I think it's just one of the best places in the country at that time of year for like energy, vibe, activity. If you love being in a city that has water and beaches and festivals and food, there's nowhere else you want to be in America in summer. It's just awesome.
To continue bringing in visitors and goods, Chicago has been upgrading its rail network. 1 in every 4 freight trains in the country now rolls through the area. A decade ago, this created congestion and delays that rippled across the nation's rail yards. To smooth things out, a series of 70 rail improvement projects are in various stages of completion, with more than 24 already finished. Chicago's leaders also just secured funding to tackle their next big priority: renovating Union Station, the beating heart of America's rail network. Mostly underground, it covers more than 9 city blocks.
Chicago's Union Station is on track to receive more than $93 million worth of upgrades and improvements. In the last 15 years, the number of trains on Illinois tracks has doubled.
But it's Chicago's famous light rail system that is one of its most quintessential features. To build it in the late 1800s, the L's engineers relied on the region's massive ore mines and steel mills that had just made the skyscraper possible to elevate its tracks over streets and between existing buildings. This spared Chicagoans the headache and expense of digging more tunnels, although it created a permanent headache of a different sort for its unfortunate neighbors.
How often does the train go by?
So often you won't even notice it.
So is this where you come to relax for peace and quiet?
Yeah, this is it.
With 8 lines, the amount of metal required to build the L turbocharged Chicago's steelmaking industry, which nimbly shifted to producing bombs, jeeps, tanks, and planes during World War II. Chicago's steel industry was vital to the Allied effort, producing more tons of the super-strong metal than the entire United Kingdom every year from 1939 to 1945, and all of Nazi Germany from 1943 to 1945. Most of the industrial facilities that fueled Chicago's original growth are long gone. The city has transformed itself into the transportation, distribution, and logistics leader of the world's largest consumer economy. Vast warehouses are clustered all along the canal and river, around its many large rail yards, and to the west of O'Hare, the world's second busiest airport in terms of aircraft movements per day. One such strip of warehouses leads directly to the Merchandise Mart, which was the largest building ever constructed when it opened, capping a century of commercial progress.
Merchants from around the nation could buy goods in bulk and then sell them to their individual customers. In fact, my own grandfather was a purchaser for a university in Cleveland, and he would go to the mart and look at furniture for the classrooms. Merchandise Mart is like an IKEA showroom.
As we've touched on in this series, Chicago's location seems ideal for urban development, but its planners understand that its geography is far from perfect. Since its founding, the city has waged a never-ending battle with nature to keep its source of drinking water, the lake, separate from the river, which carries its treated sewage. Built on top of a drained swamp, whenever there's a big rainstorm, parts of the city flood when its sewers and river overflow. Chicago's latest answer to this puzzle has been to create more and more places to hold water during storms. Since the 1970s, it has been adding massive tunnels, cavernous holding chambers, and gigantic lagoons like this one, a repurposed old mine. When this latest round of extreme engineering is complete at the end of the decade, the system will have the capacity to store 20 billion gallons, which it can then treat and slowly release into the river. The city is also creating more open spaces, green roofs, and porous parking lots for rain to drain into the ground. These investments have been so successful that cities around the world are building similar infrastructure of their own. Yet even a water-holding system of this scale has its limits. During the most severe storms, when Chicago's reservoirs and tunnels fill up, managers have no choice but to divert untreated wastewater directly into the river. This causes its level to rise quickly, but before it overflows its banks, there's one more place they can release it: out into Lake Michigan. Once the river rises above the lake level, the lockmaster can open the gates that usually hold the lake back to temporarily release excess river water into the lake instead and avoid flooding the city. This has always been an option of last resort. Then came the rains of 2020. Record precipitation fell over a 24-hour period, filling the water storage infrastructure. Just 3 days later, another big storm hit. But this time there was nowhere for the surging river water to go because the lake had also risen to a record high, which meant the lockmaster had to wait much longer than usual for the river to pass the lake level so he could open the gates and drain the river into the lake. The delay caused Lower Wacker Drive to flood, and key buildings like Willis Tower to lose power. Thousands of homes, mostly on the south side, took on water in their lower levels. The lake's extreme height means that when storms hit, buildings normally protected by beaches and boulders are battered by waves that threaten their foundations.
They hit our seawall, which is very solid. All of a sudden you feel the building rock a little bit.
One driving factor swelling the lake is the region's air temperature, which has increased 1.2 degrees Fahrenheit. This is part of the tug of war between precipitation and evaporation, according to hydrologist Drew Grunewald.
Precipitation over the past year, as well as the past decade, has been well above average. So we're getting a lot more water coming into the Great Lakes Basin. But another interesting thing that happened, and this started in about 2014, is that evaporation rates slowed down, and they slowed down drastically. So essentially you have more water coming in, less water leaving. That leads to a net increase in water levels across the entire region.
What makes this all the more unprecedented is that in 2013, just 7 years before the high water event, Lake Michigan had fallen to its lowest level since record-keeping began more than 150 years ago. Typically, the lake level fluctuates a few inches up or down from year to year, so an upward swing of more than 6 feet in just 7 years is unheard of. With climate extremes now the day-to-day reality, leaders should plan for scenarios on each end of the spectrum. On the one hand, if the lake level rises even higher to threaten the walls and gates that hold it back from the river, and the other if the lake drops so low that it no longer supplies the river with enough water to effectively carry away the city's treated sewage. But with such a storied history of innovation, Chicago is definitely up for the challenge. Thanks for watching part 3. Next, in the finale, we'll take to the air for a tour to learn exactly why Chicago's motto is City in a Garden.